who's the COO and CFO of Regus Australia and New Zealand. Live, lead and inspire with great purpose is the title of her talk. Welcome to the stage.
Hi, well, I'm lucky to be the last. And we'll finish up a bit early as well, so it's a win-win. So I'm the CFO and the COO for Australia and New Zealand's world's largest flexible solutions provider, Regus. And I joined Regus 2 years ago, and it was a very strategic move for me. I wanted to start to shape my journey into the CEO kingdom. And we heard earlier from Tony that said only 5% of CFOs actually make it to CEOs. But the reason I took the role was because it's more operational focused. And I'll come back later and talk about my strategy and share some tips with you on actions that we can all take to shape our own future. And today, my presentation is about the future of work, the future and how to future-proof ourselves and how to future-proof our business. We need to recognise that what got us here won't get us there. When I was asked to present to this summit at the end of last year, my passion was to inspire you all. So together, let's explore a little of what the future might look like. Over the next 30 minutes, all I ask is that you open your minds and your hearts to some new thinking. As this summit draws to its close, I'd like to share a few themes that I've heard over the past 2 days. We've heard about building finance teams that are world class, realising that the bar has been lifted as well as expectations. Today we talk about achieving more with less, driving organisational change whilst coping with budget and employee constraints, and how to future-proof our operating model. In short, I think it's about how to think about the future. Again, realising that perhaps what got us here isn't going to get us there. The journey will take a 15 to 20 year time period in only 30 minutes. We can time travel. I would recommend we switch off our knowing minds and open up that questioning mind that we all have to explore. You see, I think the problem is that we're still guilty of looking backwards. We get bogged down in governance and structure, trying to solve the problems of today, let alone the problems of tomorrow. Governance and structure continues to weigh on our shoulders, and yes, we still need to report the numbers and business performance, but some small steps are being taken to digitise our world. We need to take steps to provide those insights and actions, getting away from data and reporting and gathering, as we find automation increasingly doing this for us. By thinking that we've digitised our board papers or moved our emails to the cloud is not enough. How many of us have found ourselves justifying our teams to senior managers rather than just getting on with our job, adding value and being the leader that we all want and demand to be? I'm hearing the same blah, blah, blah. Even trending words such as agile and disruption I think are being overused. And let's face it, if our politicians are using them, it's probably time for us to move on and find some new ones. In short, I think we're still using some old thinking, trying to solve the problems of tomorrow by using yesterday's thinking. We need to wake up, realise that what got us here won't get us there. Only 2 weeks ago, I attended a lunch seminar for CFOs in Sydney, run by one of the top 4 accounting and auditing practice. During that presentation, there was a guy from a well-known recruitment company, and he actually stood up and delivered a boring old slide deck talking about what percentage of people are looking for jobs, what percentage of companies are looking for employees, and I just thought to myself, really, is this the best we can do? A group of CFOs in a lunchtime session, I would have thought we could have had a few more insights and call for actions. Where was his future thinking? I dedicate some of my time to a university in Sydney, and I go and talk to the graduates about how to be a future finance leader. the same university that I do this with asked me to come and sit with them on their Future Thinking and Strategy Day last year. It was a half-a-day session, and there was a few partners from the industry, and mostly it was about the lecturers as well. The morning started off with a great video run about the future. We were then split into groups and asked to think about different challenges that the university was facing. I facilitated a group to think about how to teach without using books. There was one lecturer who sat next to me. His arms crossed the whole time. And when I turned around to him and asked him what he thought about the future and how we might change, he just said, "I don't believe in this, it's a load of crap." So I think that demonstrates there's a lack of acceptance about how to apply some different thinking. Again, what got us here is not going to get us there. We talk of leaders being outcomes focused, but we still struggle to manage teams if we can't see them. People are choosing a different way to work, we know this. The days of slogging our guts out from 8 till 6, 5 or 6 days a week, I'm happy to say may be a thing of the past. In my mind's eye, the role of the CFO is more future-looking, and over the past 2 days, we've heard many references to the same thing. We're obviously all thinking the same. When I was doing my research for this presentation, I came across a number of really good thought-provoking papers, and I've included links to them at the end of this presentation. IBM have a great paper on talking about looking beyond the ledgers. It should come as no surprise that a CFO who's providing business insights will have a higher return on capital, a fact that any CEO would be happy about. And today we think about Airbnb and Uber as being companies we want to aspire to. But these are today's disruptors. I challenge us to look ahead, to think about what tomorrow's disruptors are going to be, or even in the next 10 or 15 years, where is the next disruption coming from? And in my mind, I think it's about us. I think we need to be self-disruptive to ensure that we stay relevant and we stay future-looking. And I have 3 tips to share with you. 1 is to say yes more often. 2 is to get scared more often. And 3 is don't fret how you're going to do something, just make a start. The discussions over the past 2 days that I've participated in touch upon the precipice of change. We can feel a huge amount of energy waiting to be released. And in one conversation that I had, we discussed the fact that we haven't seen a potential disaster in our business world since the threat of Y2K. And most of us will probably understand and remember spending thousands of dollars in consulting fees preparing for a potential disaster on the turn of the century. In fact, I think we were scaremongering ourselves into thinking that everything was going to be a disaster, and in my world, it wasn't. So I want to play a 3-minute video for you. I would ask you to sit back and relax and see where you think we might be in the next 12 years. Well, some thought-provoking captions and images there, I'm sure you'll agree. One thing we know is our world will be different, and we can be certain of that fact. 50% of jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence, and potentially no car insurance as computers drive cars for us. So what would that mean? Will that mean no more RBTs? No more speeding tickets? Basically, everyone's going to have to future-proof itself, including the police force, as revenues will be impacted, as well as big banks. People need to make different financial decisions about the future. The need for change is obvious, and I think the speed for change is quickening. In the accounting profession, we're all making use of technology today. Through optical image recognition, we all know this, allowing our transactional processing to be automated. We've all been touched in some way. Our graduates today are learning differently to how you and I would have learnt, and mass online examination options are allowing the next generation of leaders to prepare and to be examined differently. We even see evidence of this in the medical world, where surgeons are performing complex operations, life-saving operations, from the other side of the world to the patient, using computerized surgeons to be their assistants. So let's look at the last 5 to 10 years, where we've been constantly challenged. We've been forced to adapt and to grow in ourselves as leaders. We've been asked to lead multi-generational teams, where workforces are no longer motivated by the same things. We've been asked to lead projects spanning countries with language issues and cultural differences. I don't know about you, but I certainly didn't have any formal teaching on how to motivate a team that might span 30 or 40-year age gap. Older generations are staying in the workplace longer, and new generations are not all motivated by money. There's lots of young Australians who actually want to make a difference to their world, and we see many examples of this. With Orange Sky Laundry, driving vans around the country to allow the homeless to wash their clothes free of charge. Not only providing a service, but opportunities for people to feel connected. In short, what I'm saying is one size does not fit all. Come to think of it, I didn't even learn how to deal with outsourcing transaction providers to countries where processes are followed without applying any logical thinking, or dealing with cultures where yes doesn't mean yes, I understand, it just means yes, I've heard you. And have a think about who knows how to manage a robot. I think these issues speak about behaviour and behavioural science. As CFOs, we're not simply adding up and presenting numbers. At the leadership table, we're driving change in behaviours, change in the business, and sharing our organisations, because we know what got us here won't get us there. In my role at Regus, I'm driving change through a leaner structure. We're asked to do more with less. And with constant budget restraints, this calls for involvement at a deeper level within the business. I've facilitated ambassadors and champion programs 2 levels down from my position. And it's about getting people who do the tasks to tell me what's working and what's not working. It's about empowering those people to step up and to make a difference. And I think we have to take our teams on the journey. It's not good enough to tell people that they need to change. You need to demonstrate and support what change looks like for them. And a few of us heard yesterday from Gary Brown at Viva, reminding us just how important our people are in our business. In short, I think it's a paradigm shift. It's a bit like those tectonic plates shifting that Wayne spoke about last night. Our theories and our thought patterns need to change. And 3 things I think we need to look at in ourselves is about human connections, it's about transformation and self-disruption, and it's about escaping the financial handcuffs. So human connections, it's about making them work. In order to future-proof yourself, we need to get good at relationship building. This may be something that we're not naturally strong at, and if we're not, then I suggest we get good at it. It's going to determine your future. Transformation and self-disruption is a constant need for our growth. Understanding that life's lessons are tests for us and that it's the learnings that make and shape our life. 6 years ago, I was a different person to what I am today. My partner at the time unexpectedly died 2 weeks before my 40th birthday. I can tell you that gave me a wake-up call and a slap round my face. But it's also kick-started my career into the C-suite. And escaping financial handcuffs is about thinking about the future differently. Think about how your employees want to work in the future. Think about where they want to work. Think about maybe taking space on demand. Perhaps in areas closer to where your employees live will help them with their satisfaction and also their engagement, resulting in a better quality output for you. After all, the rent line in our P&L is often the third largest expense. So think about being more flexible and think about taking space on demand and being nimble with the allocation of your cash. So during my research for this presentation, I found a recent CSIRO report, and I brought it with me just to show you. It's 160 pages. The link is on this slide deck. But I thought it was funny that I actually had to print it out because I am a dinosaur sometimes and I can't read this in a PDF. But this chart here attempts to simplify and illustrate the relationship that automation will have on institutional transformation. And I don't want to go through everything in detail, but I do like to point us to 2 areas of focus. The top right quadrant talks about oceans, where we've got the greatest and exciting opportunity for us, for employees and for society and for technology. And then balance this with the bottom left-hand corner, which speaks about lakes. And in my mind, when I think about a lake, I think about safe, but maybe a little restrictive. And this is where little change is occurring, which may feel safe, may be okay. But what if the world moves on faster than Australia does? It will leave us potentially with little opportunity. I have a financial services background, and it feels to me a little like moving to the cloud was 5 or 7 years ago. Companies didn't want to be the first adopters. People were worried about the risk of moving all their data to the cloud. But now everyone jumps ship, if not already. And the risks aren't hugely different to what they were 7 years ago. But now we have a pack mentality. People don't want to get left on old technology with no support. I think it's clear from whichever quadrant you consider to be the rate of institutional change, it will have a significant impact on how we work. Potential shifts in societies to choose between work, a balance between work and recreation. Potentially, we'll have to offer safety nets during periods of transition. In fact, I think society may come under significant burden to adapt if new technologies come online at a faster pace. So what will be the next disruptor? Will it be the peer-to-peer economy? We've already seen huge trends around freelancing work, with 3,000 graphic jobs advertised in the first week of November last year. And these jobs are all being paid at a lower rate than Australia's domestic expectations. And also another word is on employeepreneur. So this is where employees want more flexibility. They're leaving the workplace, they're becoming more entrepreneurial. They want different workloads and want different work functions. And we see many little niche groups now appearing, as, for example, Ausmumpreneurs. So we've done a lot of research at Regus, and I've got a few facts here, which I think are interesting. 65% of Australian economy is facing significant disruption in the next 12 months. 63% of Australian firms using flexible working as a tool will improve employee retention and attract top candidates. And working closer to home will tackle the issue of leasehold under-occupancy by 17%. So the next slide I'm going to show you is a very personal journey of mine, and it's how I future-proof myself. I'm a very visual person, and every year I set myself annual targets, working through my own SWOT analysis. 2 years ago, I was very proud to win a CFO of the Year award, and I set myself a 3 to 5 year strategy. I want to become a CEO. and I want to drive a business and make a difference. And each year I assess what I need to achieve in that year coming in order for me to set myself up for success. Part of my annual target setting is this vision board. Obviously, it's a very personal journey, and for some it can be quite confrontational. To question where you want to be, to hold up that mirror to yourself and see what areas you may need to grow in order to get to the place that you want to. In 2015, I realised I needed to become more confident in public speaking. So I enrolled with Macquarie Uni in Sydney on their 5-day public speaking course. It's just little examples like this that you need to have a look at yourself and to see where you can grow. A vision board is a very personal place for you, and I think it's a really great example to spend some quality time with yourself. Allow yourself to work out what's important, and I've used here a combination of photos and images that speak to me personally about what's important in my life. And it's about my career, it's about my personal life, it's about my financial life and my spiritual life. For me, it illustrates my journey, and it's a guide, especially if times get tough. So set yourself up for success in every aspect of your life. As senior leaders today, we have a personal responsibility to help shape the future of our role, and also for that next generation of leaders behind us. And I'd like to leave you with 3 tips on how we do this. So get involved in the unknown and be brave. Take a first step. Be like those astronauts, can you believe, 47 years ago, that took one giant leap for mankind. I took a giant leap 2 years ago and got involved in my accounting body here in Sydney. I'm now the chairman of the ACCA panel in Australia and New Zealand, and that means I attend International Assembly every year in London, which is a global meeting of panel representatives from around the world, about 100 of us. This opportunity has now led to potentially getting onto Global Council. And for me, that's an important step because it could be the feeding group for potential presidency of the ACCA. So it's an exciting prospect for my 8 to 10 year strategy about perhaps even being the head of my accounting body. So have a personal plan, and we call it your USP, which is your unique selling proposition. Set yourself those annual goals and take time to design your vision board. Do your own skills gap analysis, and don't forget the self-disruption means that you have to grow and keep growing. And remember to get scared. Don't remain in that dangerous comfort zone, because we know what got us here won't get us there. And one thing I'd like you to all leave this conference with today, and that's this: to have a think about what step you're going to take to future-proof yourself. I've left some complimentary Business World passes for each of you to come along and try out Regus, and I hope to see some of you soon. Thank you.